So you're wanting to make your first artificial floral arrangement and you're not sure where to get started. Maybe you want to make a centerpiece or a wreath for your front door. There are so many options when it comes to selecting not only the flowers you're going to use, but the tools and supplies that you need in order to complete some of these projects. So in today's video, I'm just really going to quickly go through selecting artificial flowers, as well as selecting and purchasing tools and supplies that you'll need. This information is for beginners if you're wanting to make flower arrangements, and it's applicable to any kind of project as long as it includes artificial flowers. If you have any questions, please put them in the comment section below and I will be sure to answer every one of them. If you're like me, the area that you live in may currently be experiencing a little bit of a cool snap. It really makes me start thinking about prepping for fall and holiday decor. And while I love gardening, I love the use of artificial plants and flowers during seasons when I cannot use real as easily. You really have a few different options, and I have a few examples here today I'm going to show you. If you see an artificial flower for sale in an individual stem, meaning it's not on a bush. So if you see like this right here, and I purchased these at Michael's in the spring. If you watched that video, you saw where I just put together a really quick front door wreath, and they're in a bush. These were very inexpensive. Usually when you see flowers in a bush form like this, that's a really big indicator that they're going to be a lower end artificial flower. The other thing to note is that on the opposite end of that scale, which these are tied together, but I can slip these out. They're not connected together in any way. And this is usually an indicator of a higher end artificial flower. So an individual stem, they took the time to give its own little body, and that's an indicator that you're going to get a higher quality product. I'm using these tulips as an example because if I get this up kind of close, I'll show you guys. Can you tell it has kind of a waxy finish to it? That is a foam-like material. So all of these petals have a little bit of structure and depth to them individually. And that gives them the ability to mold and shape them, and it just makes them look a lot more realistic. In addition to that, if I contrast that with this other tulip that I purchased at Michael's, these are made from a synthetic fabric, and what you're starting to see after only a few months of use is the edges are starting to fray. These tulips I have had for about 8 years, and really I think in the long run I'm gonna spend less money because these are gonna end up being garbage a lot faster than this higher end artificial flower is. So you really want to keep that in mind. Do I regret buying these cheaper tulips? No, of course not. My house sits way back from the road. I wanted something really big that could make a lot of impact, and I didn't want to make a big investment because I'm not sure that I'm going to want to use this year after year. You've also got a third option for making artificial arrangements, which isn't technically artificial, and I'm not going to go in depth with this today, but that is using dried florals. So a lot of times I like to add in dried florals with my artificial flowers, and it really makes it look a lot more realistic. So I can add in some cheaper materials with these dried florals, and it kind of elevates that. So we've talked about selecting your artificial flowers. Let's talk a little bit about buying supplies and tools. Let's make sure that you don't spend any money that you don't have to, and that you have what you need to finish before you get started. So the first thing I really want to talk about is how to cut your floral stems. So inside the floral stem, every artificial flower is going to have a piece of wire or metal. That gives you the ability to articulate these in ways that you cannot articulate live floral stems. So it's really nice that you have that option with artificial flowers, but sometimes they can be very difficult to cut, and you're going to get really frustrated. So my number one top tip, if you're wanting to make a flower arrangement, is invest in some decent cutters. Now, where do you want to buy these? You don't want to buy them at a craft store. You want to go to either your big box construction stores, I'm talking like Lowe's, Home Depot, or even better than that, an electrical supply store. So an electrical supply store is going to carry special made cutters that are made for cutting high gauge wire, really thick wire. And I know that seems really silly, but they're gonna be a lot higher quality, a lot of times for the exact same price, and you're gonna actually be able to cut your stems. So if you're trying to put this into a short container and you can't trim this, you're stuck.
Yeah, you don't want to get stuck in there.
A hot glue gun. Don't do anything silly and burn yourself, please.
Trust me, I know.
Wire is the next thing you're gonna need. Floral wire, and you can get this at a supply store. Nothing special here. It doesn't look like much, but this is also a really important tool. And the last thing you're gonna need is floral tape. I recommend green. It does come in a variety of colors, black, white, but for your artificial floral arrangements, usually green is gonna work the best. I've got just a stake here. I think this is actually from one of my orchids, but we're gonna use this today to extend the length of one of our artificial flower stems. So just like it's important to be able to trim these and make them shorter, it's also important to be able to make them longer. You never know what you're gonna need, and that's really the name of the game when you're making a flower arrangement, is being able to manipulate these stems and put them exactly where you want them to go. I think that you may already have an idea of what you want your arrangement to look like, but you don't know how to get there, so that's why this is important. So we're gonna start out with a piece of our floral wire. I don't need this whole piece, so we'll cut this in half. We're gonna sister this up. We're gonna lay this side by side. We're gonna start at the top, take our index finger and hold that down. And we'll have to hold it together so they don't twist. But once you get this started, we're just gonna rotate this, pushing firmly down with our thumb. And that overlap is important. So we've got a couple inches here. You could do more. You don't really need to do more, but you don't want to do less than that. So this is where the floral tape comes in, and this stuff is a little bit like magic. Same thing, we're gonna start at the top, hold this down, pushing down with our thumb, and what we're gonna do is just very, very firmly, but gently, pull some tension on this tape as we rotate. And what that's doing is exposing that tacky layer inside the floral tape. And we wanna go a little bit above and below that overlap point where it stops. So there's a few different reasons why this is important to be able to do. If you look at these stems, even though they have wire inside of them, a lot of times they are very, very flexible. And that's completely fine until you try to insert them into a piece of styrofoam or floral foam. And then they're gonna start to bend and you're gonna get really frustrated. If you're looking for more specific information on selecting everything you need to complete and design a flower arrangement, as well as selecting the container for that arrangement, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell so you don't miss out. I'll see you next time. Bye guys.